that is because I need to reinstall Adobe Premiere, but it's huffing with me to patch them together because we had a few interruptions in streaming before. So as soon as I fix Adobe Premiere, I will get those up on YouTube, and then we'll have a bit of a backlog to go through.
There are other
I know
other editing suites available.
I have Premiere, and I have been burned with free ones before because they were utter shite.
And now we're complete.
Yeah. Oh look, there's Icy! Yay! Yeah. I knew they would
The
abandon us.
circle is now complete.
So yeah, I know how to use Premiere, and it's hard for me to learn other programs, so I'd rather stick with the one I know. Some of the free ones I have used are their control mechanisms I can't get my head around. But anyway, my dyslexic brain aside, welcome back everybody. Hi Icy! We were missing you. So unfortunately, again, we do not have a Dennis. Due to work shenanigans, Dennis may not be with us for a while. So, boo. So I will continue puppeteering as. But last time, on the Farce of Strahd, some of our parties entered into a few contracts. Haraga gained her preferred form and is now a gnome. Samara made a bargain that her kin would not be allowed within the borders of Barovia. Reister outright refused to make a deal. Others, well, I say first got their power as well. A delightful gift, and promised to fulfill her end of the bargain before reaping her rewards. Other members of the party, you don't know. But moving back into the Amber Temple, you still to explore and still to decide what to do next. So let's bring y'all back in. You return to the site where you discussed matters with the overarching consciousness of the Dark Powers. They have warned you that there are still some others trapped somewhere who may also offer deals, but you'll have to find them. And what's a game of Curse of Strahd without the jukebox dying?
Yes.
That would be unusual.
So, Reister, you were having a poke around this door.
Yes, and I was going to try to open it.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I'd found no traps, so I'm going to try to open it.
Go ahead.
Reister receives a face full of angry bees.
Well, Reister opens the. Reister stands back up and opens the door.
Alrighty then.
He's just fucking exhausted.
You open the door, and 3 angry bugbears run out. No. Open the door,
Great.
and you find yourself looking into a room. In the
that's
middle
a
of
mess.
the room, you notice there's a white marble bed that stands in the center of this bare stone room. Its mattress seemingly long rotted away. There are golden hawks perched atop the bed's corner posts. The remaining furniture scattered around the room have been reduced to dust-covered heaps. Their cobwebs covering arcane sigils carved into the walls.
Could any of you more magically inclined individuals take a look at these sigils in the wall?
Ladies can have a crack at it.
You would need to
Haraga's
step into the room to have a nosy.
before that.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Lane's gonna go into the room and have a nosy.
Okay. Nothing.
Okay, what the hell is...
You're over
Right, there, mate.
Okay. With an Arcana check. These are some sort of arcane runes carved in to perform some sort of spell. But with that Arcana, I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Anyone else wanting to take a look?
As you will here. That's her sheet out. That would help. We'll load up. I don't know what's going on with my internet lately.
Okay. You step into the room and you have a close look around, and you do actually recognize some of these sigils. You noticed them in a few places before. These were carved to create an anti-theft field in the room. However, when you've seen them active, they tended to always have some sort of dull glow to them. These runes appear to be inactive and expended.
Even safe. They're some sort of anti-theft security system.
Well, in that case, just in case I go down, someone be ready to pull me back up. And Reister puts a hand on one of the golden adornments.
Okay. You put your hand on the golden hawk and it wobbles slightly on top of the pillar. It appears to be a freestanding statuette made mostly of gold.
Hmm.
And there are 4 of them.
Moral quandary. So, someone tell me, odd or even?
Odd.
Okay. Even, he is not taking the risk of doing something really, really stupid and pocketing them. He's not pocketing them.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd say that's a no.
What? Really? You're just going to leave them there? From Ez.
Given our experiences so far in this place, as I don't think it's a good idea to steal anything like that.
Yeah, okay, I suppose.
Especially if you look at me. If I steal something, I go down faster than, I don't know, if I were torched by a fireball. So, okay, we now know what's in here. Which doors do we check then? This one or this one?
Haraga, meanwhile, slinks over to, drops down on all fours and comes up alongside Zabornak, hunkering her head down.
With the way gnolls are, they can't quite walk comfortably on 4 legs. They would kind of do a kind of like a gorilla stroll.
Oh, okay. I thought they could
Gnolls
do it
are-
just like werewolves.
Yeah, they're more humanoid in their bone structure, so they can't really do all 4s.
Then she does not. She just still comes over and kind of like lowers her head instead then.
Okay.
The Bornik actually turns around and looks away from her.
Ooh. So,
We will have to have a long discussion about this, aren't we?
Oh, are we now?
where next?
Well, I better make sure that Haraga doesn't get herself into a slight spot of trouble. Well, I would like to check this door then for traps.
Sure, roll an investigation.
That'll be
I like traps
25.
here.
Okay, you start scanning around the door and you don't see anything. And I have accidentally done something.
Congratulations.
Hang on.
You have deleted the most powerful Haraga. Would you please stay here? Stay with the group. Don't want you to get hurt.
He's right, Haraga. Come here. Thank you. Arena just kind of reaches up and gives you a little scritch behind your big gnolly ear.
And instantly her shoulders relax and she looks happy. She keeps like side-eyeing over at Zabornak, like when someone has a cookie that, and a puppy wants and the puppy doesn't look. It's like, I'm not looking at the cookie, like keeps looking over and looking away.
Zabornik still makes sure not to make eye contact.
Okay. So, Reister, with that investigation, you have a look around the door and you do not spot anything out of the ordinary.
Just in case anything waits behind that door. More of those ghost creatures or fuck even the skulls. We should probably make certain that we are all ready to fight or run. We should decide on one or the other.
Just be sure you get out of the way. You're not exactly up to your full strength.
You look sick.
Looked into mirror lately. Sorry, I get sardonic when I'm really, really tired. And yeah, Rice is opening the door carefully.
Okay.
I'm going to roll stealth in order to make certain that if there is anything that can hear them, it doesn't necessarily notice the door opening.
Sure.
And he screws up completely.
Okay, you try your best, but the squeaky hinges
Oh,
let out a
fuck.
awful screech.
What's that statue over there?
Alright, let me do the narration. The furnishings of this barestone room have succumbed to really decrepitude. That's not a word, is it? Decrepitude? Anyway, the furniture's rotted. Standing in the center of the room, its head scraping the 10-foot ceiling, is a vaguely man-shaped construct made of dark wood and riveted iron. Its helmeted head stares blankly in your direction. Cobwebs stretch from this terrible artifice to the wrecked furniture that surrounds it.
There's a statue in there, and I don't know if it'll wake up. I mean, I've seen enough strange shit.
Reister, Haraga flexes her new knoll arms and says, "Do you want me to knock it over like last time?"
As I said, I don't want you to get hurt unnecessarily. Because as weird as it may seem, Haraga, you were strong before.
But I'm even stronger now. Statues can't hurt me.
Rice looks over to Zabornik.
I tried to stop her. Now she's your problem.
Zabornik, do you still have that wand that we got from you know who?
Let me see. She starts rummaging through all of her belongings. You're not entirely sure where she keeps all of that stuff. It just seems to keep appearing from between her clothing and her leaves and all this stuff. And then she's like, yeah, out here. So, what about it?
Perhaps you would use a few charges of it on Reister.
That seems like a good idea, doesn't it? Yep, okay.
Look, all I need is a good night's sleep and I'll be back to my full facilities.
Yes, but who knows when it will be until we get that sleep. I would rather you not crumple over, my dear.
At least not crumple over again.
Out of character, I need another moment. My character sheet is acting up again. Well, that works.
Yeah. So you have 6 charges with 1d8. So you can choose how many charges you want to use.
No, that's try to. Oh, that's not bad.
Okay, so that's 2 charges down. You regain 12 hit points, Reister.
Good to know.
If you wanna...
Because right now I don't see them.
Yeah,
I didn't see the roll.
It was a whisper roll for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Why does it keep happening?
Third page, 4th page, and whisper roll to GM.
Yeah, I see it. Don't know why it was checked out.
Query whisper would make more sense if you have a lot of rolls to go with the DM. Well, thank you, Zabornik. I guess I will be stepping in and checking it out before Arago gets herself into danger.
Wait.
Rice is already through the door.
Oh dear.
Haraga gets a look on her face that's like she's pocketing an idea.
Step into the room. You disturb a few cobwebs. A few tiny spiders skitter across the floor, and from the background you hear Ez go, yeah, no.
Can I check the area surrounding me for traps, or rather triggers, that could activate?
Sure, roll an investigation check.
This is okay. I have no idea, and I stumble onto the next step, hoping nothing activates.
Okay. You go to have a look around, but as you move, you kick up some dust, and it's kind of hard to see.
That.
That was actually just in character.
Hi, Lucy. That's your turn.
Okay, Gesundheit.
Do you want to cut off?
I have no idea which language you're speaking. Well,
It's an old Baruvian tradition.
okay. How does Bornik know?
We've talked
I know.
quite a
I
lot,
think that
Reister.
we matched.
Rice is now directly in front of the
Okay.
construct.
Ahead of you is a 10-foot tall humanoid figure carved of wood and banded together with riveted iron. It's covered in dust and cobwebs.
Rice is going to try something. He's going to try to figure out whether or not it is magically animated. If there is a spark of magic still within that, or if that thing always was a statue, as far as he knows.
How you plan on doing that?
He's trying his best at an Arcana check.
Okay. You have a look around the construct, but you're unwilling to really touch it to have a better, closer look at it, so you're not sure if it's magical.
Folks, I'm going to put a hand to it. Whatever happens,
Reister, let
be
me.
careful.
Reister, let me.
I concur, Reister. You are not in the fit state for this.
Yeah. Let me try. I'm the statue destroyer here.
Yes, but be careful, Haraga.
All right, I will step away from the statue. I will train my bow on it.
Hello, statue. You don't scare me. And
Hello.
she gives it a rake of her claw.
Okay. Your claw scratches across the chest plate of it. You leave a small groove in the dust, but other than that, nothing seems to happen.
Is it on a pedestal?
No, it's just standing.
Can she knock it over?
You can try with a strength check.
Meanwhile, Rice is looking at the statue and the door. Would the statue fit out? Be able to be just shoved out of the room and be used as mobile cover?
It looks very heavy. You would have to kind of push it down or push it over and then drag it out the door. As it stands, you wouldn't be able to get it out. Haraga, you kind of like open-handed shove this thing. Just push it on its chest, and it rocks back in its heels, wobbles forward towards you, and you're about to like start because you think it's going to fall on you, but then it starts rocking backwards again and just tips over and falls flat on its back with a loud crash, sending up a cloud of broken cobwebs and dust.
The statue's dead, everyone!
Not sure if it was alive, but good job.
Ends up breaking it here, Al.
Look, there was the possibility that it is an animated construct. Yes, Arago.
Can't get out.
Oh.
There it is. Haraga walks over to Reister, and then as she comes out of the place, she comes toward Reister and goes, Reister, something else. The mists. Yes, the mists. They're telling me. And then she moves to try to tweak his nose. Do you resist, Reister?
He would clearly try to dodge.
Okay,
Alright.
what do I have to roll, Irina?
A dexterity
Irina,
check
Jurnis.
for Haraga, and the same for Talander. Reister Talander.
A dex, not a dex save, a regular dex check.
Yep, dex check.
Ah!
You go
Can't
to
get
try
my nose.
and boop Talander on the nose, but he ducks out under your arm. You're still not
I'm
quite
just
used
kidding.
to your elongated arm,
Yes.
so you don't quite have the coordination.
Yeah, and so she looks over at Reister and goes, I'm just joking, I'm fine.
I'm
Come on, Brother Reister, let's go.
sure you are.
Let's go, Brother Reister.
Is it just me, or has she developed a strange sense of humor?
I think she seems a little bit happier with herself. Just remember what we told you, Haraga.
Hmm?
You are not a savage beast. You're a civil beast.
No. Yes. The most civil.
Stay in control.
I have control now, Irina. I'm not fighting myself anymore.
Oh.
See, Irina's just kind of looking Haraga up and down. You can't quite see her full expression, but Zabornik,
I
you
can smell the
see-
concern.
Actually, Zabornik, you can roll an insight.
Insight coming up.
Yeah, Irina's not entirely happy about this either.
Interesting.
She doesn't seem to have as big as a problem as Zabornik does, but she seems wary of Haraga right now.
Haraga's blissfully unaware.
Mm-hmm.
She just got a compliment.
That's what happens when you take the shortcut.
It's not like Irina was testing whether or not she still had command by telling Haraga to come over to her or anything.
That is the difference between Ryster and Irina.
You did.
Ryster was asking Haraga to come. Irina told her.
Yeah. Irina was checking.
But she did come.
She did.
Yeah.
Well then,
Well, then,
more doors to check.
let us move on then.
And another door,
This door
another
is similar to this one down here, where it has sort of the amber glaze across it.
Oh great, that's
see-
just...
No form of locking mechanism on it.
Oh great, it's an amber seal. Open sesame.
You really think it would be that easy?
A man can hope.
I suppose that's fair.
Hey, mists, are we supposed to get in here? Haraga says that out loud.
You hear
You-
no response.
Haraga.
Hmm?
Just a word of warning. If you ask them for help, they will demand something in return. They will be sneaky.
I guess.
Alright, so we better make sure that we find... We probably should get back up then.
Yeah, we should
Or
be
check
careful
it.
in the main room. I don't
Yeah,
know
we
if
should
that statue
probably-
would still attack us if we try to go up the stairs.
Yeah, we should probably go behind the statue. Big one.
Alright. So then, who wants to lead the way?
Reister's actually taking charge.
And
Believe it or not.
Haraga's gonna stay with Reister because she's sniffing the way. She's really being sniffly. She's trying to like smell anything strange. She's testing out the limits of her new form. So she wants to see how on edge her senses can be.
Alright.
Mm.
So then, I would like everybody to make me a stealth check to get around behind the statue.
Okay.
Come on, Specky, let's go. Oh,
Zbornak, why wouldn't you put away that...
before you make a snarky comment, Zabornik, did you drop your concentration on Pass Without a Trace?
Honestly, role-playing wise, I think she would have lost her concentration. Gotta be honest here.
Alright,
Yeah.
fair enough. So then, you start to... Actually, I suppose I better do Arena too. You know, because she has disadvantage. Yeah. You start making your way through the corridor, and unfortunately, there's a bit of a pile-up. Both Irina and Zabornik are too focused on watching Haraga that they kind of bump into each other, which causes Elaine and Samara to walk into the pair of them, causing a loud cacophony of clanking armor, just kind of bashing into each other.
Rice is quickly turning around.
Sorry.
Let's just hope nobody heard that.
If they do, they'll be dead soon.
Along the wall.
So you start making your way around the corner. Along the wall.
Yeah,
that
not
is a
to-
broken
These
statue.
be
The one that Haraga threw over?
No. The one you threw over is now over here in a pile.
Okay.
I do seem to remember that one is ambered.
Yeah, that is ambered. Okay. So, I assume from here you are continuing over to the other side of the hall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I'll say for the sake of brevity, you all managed to get yourselves over here with no further issues. So,
Yay.
move yourselves over there.
Over where?
I got you.
well, if need be, so we can always shout back at them. There's nobody here.
Just moves. Trying to move you en masse. Let's bring it Specky. Okay, so you come around this corridor, and let's see. Really, I need to reach the book. Damn you and your adorableness.
Lucy's adorableness is unstoppable.
Yeah, she's like right in my arm. I'm trying to. Oh shit! I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's totally okay.
I'm apologizing to the cat.
Oh.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to disturb you. I accidentally bonked her on the head with the book.
Oh no.
It was a gentle bonk, but she's unhappy. Alright.
Owing to the snarky people in the back, at least I'm trying to fucking do my job.
You're very good at it, Reister.
So,
No one's a better sneaky person than you.
you just come around the corner and you see glistening amber is coating the walls and ceiling of this enormous hall like sculpted honey, and dust covers the black marble floor. The vaulted ceiling is 25 feet high. Set into the walls at the height of 5 feet are amber ledges lined with life-sized statues of alabaster cats, dogs, hawks, owls, rats, ravens, snakes, toads, and weasels. Many of the statues have fallen off their perches and lie shattered on the floor. An amber door to the north wall stands open. 4 other amber doors to the west and south stand closed.
And I think I can barely make out the staircase upstairs. Down here.
There does appear to be something like that there, doesn't there?
Well, looks like there's the only way forward is that door, yeah.
This one is lying open, but you can't quite see at this angle. It's kind of like a quarter-inch open, so you'd have to push it open properly.
Yeah, but the others look glossed over.
This one, I'm getting that now. This one is glossed over with no visible locks like the other 2 vaults you already found. This one and this one directly ahead of you are just standard wooden doors, and this one is glazed over down to the south.
Okay.
And for
Alright,
some reason, it is not covered. Bear with me. I need to get door on that.
Right.
Better make sure that we're covering all our bases and nothing can crawl up on our backs.
There we go. It's supposed to be closed.
Investigating that door, trying to figure out if there's a trap.
You notice nothing out of the ordinary with that.
Opening the door.
Okay.
Be careful. I have a
Okay.
feeling.
Just open that up for you. Let me get a specky over. Please hold till I get the description, because they've numbered this really pretty. The furnishings inside this room are made of ancient, colourless wood and have collapsed under their own weight and now lie covered in cobwebs and dust.
Looks like an ancient bedroom. So I take it this cupboard is broken as well.
It
As,
appears to be a writing desk.
Oh, well, but that desk is completely wrecked as well. No
Uh,
doors.
There are still some drawers and such on it. They look like they're partially crumbled. Haraga, you
Careful.
see no hyenas.
What?
Dang it.
Haraga was looking along the statues to see if there was any
Okay. Well, Rice is going to have a little bit of a look around the desk in order to figure out if there's anything useful in there.
Sure. Roll it.
Though he is
Right.
going to be very careful as soon as he sees even a scrap of parchment.
Haraga's sniffing around. She's looking for whatever she can find. She's trying to see if there's any discernible sense other than decay and dust.
Okay.
Trying to filter that out.
Perception from Haraga. Reister, you start poking around the desk, carefully trying to open the drawers and the little... Like, this is a proper, like, little writing desk. They're like tiny little drawers up and above the desk level. There's a few drawers underneath. Some of these drawers the bottoms have rotted through, and anything that was in it is now in a rotted pile on the floor. You start flicking through some of the drawers along the top, and you find a few decayed quills, an old inkwell that all the ink has dried up, and just a few bits of stationery that are beyond use.
The Overlook Hotel. Never heard of such a place. Oh,
And it
well.
looks like I rolled a 1.
Oh, look at the parchment from the Hotel California.
That's performance, darling. You're looking for
Oh.
perception.
Okay. There we
That's
go.
better. Alright. You start sniffing around this room.
Devillo? Okay.
And as you sniffle and look around, you notice something in the dust void. A small scent that you have had before. It smells familiar. Strangely familiar. And as
What
you
is
start
it?
squinting at the tiny little voids in the dust, they look like hooves. Tiny little hooves. And soft leather. And an iron cooking pot.
What do I recognize? Soft leather iron cooking pot and
And goat.
hooves.
Gala.
Oh,
Not gala.
No. No, yikes. That's a whole other story.
That would have been terrifying.
Yeah.
I was
She
gonna.
points. Sorry, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say the hunter.
Oh, yeah. She points over for gestures to Reister. Terry.
Oh.
Yeah. As you go and look out the hall, you do realize there is evidence of the passage of a little goat. Seemingly wandering the halls at random.
Oh. 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 Haraga emerges and lopes over to the others and addresses Irina, wherever Irina is. There she is.
He's up here.
And says, Terry's been here. She lowers her head.
Really? The little goat?
She nods.
Any sign of him?
She nods and describes what she found.
See
And then
everyone
she
kind
points
of
out the path
tips her
heading out.
head And you hear a little sniff. It's like, I do smell goat. I'm not sure how old that scent is. It's been here a while. I'm actually surprised you picked that up. Well done. So,
Meanwhile, in the room of rotting, Rice is going to investigate the chest.
I'm
what's
afraid
left of
that's
that?
a chair, dear.
Oh, it's a chair. Okay. Well, in that case, next door. Same song, second verse.
Okay, roll investigation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start looking around the door and you see nothing out of the ordinary.
Well, no time like this, like today, to figure out what's behind this door. And he opens it.
Okay.
A fireball flashes into his face, killing him instantly. No.
No. You open up the door. And
That looks oddly familiar.
this room was once a bedchamber. It is littered with broken furnishings scattered about the room, and the remains of a bed, a wardrobe, and 2 trunks, 3 tall candlesticks, a desk, a bookshelf, and several chairs, torn up books and old quill pens, and tattered clothes are also strewn about.
Well, Rice is going to rummage through what's still left there.
Okay. Are you looking in the wardrobe first?
Yeah, though he's stepping to the side just in case any skeletons fall out at him.
Okay. Roll me a straight up investigation.
Another 9. Dude, you could start being good again.
Okay.
Remember that Twitter tweet I sent you, Reister?
Yes, the Derkhawk remembers.
Okay, so you start rummaging around, but you get distracted as just out of the corner of your eye, you notice what appears to be an old rotted boot has slowly lifted itself off the ground and is now hovering at about 4 feet off the ground.
Who is there?
And as you watch, it rockets across the room and collides with the wardrobe door beside you with a heavy thump.
Yeah, the thump's gonna get Haraga to run. She races over. What is it, Reister? What is it?
Someone invisible threw a shoe at me.
As you are standing in as Haraga enters the room, you glance around and you notice that a few more articles of clothing and a few bits of furniture are now slowly rising off the ground.
Someone doesn't want us looking into the wardrobe.
Haraga's going to attempt to grab Reister and pull him out of there.
Do you contest this?
Haraga!
What'd you say, Jurnis?
Do you contest this, Reister?
Yes?
Okay. Haraga! Actually, both
Sorry.
of those strength checks.
Yeah, Haraga pulled him out
Okay, you
easily.
are dragged out of the room as pieces of miscellaneous furniture are fired across the room at you. Haraga, you get a old book to the snoot. Reister, you get hit in the gut with an old vial, crashes to the ground and shatters. Thankfully, you were only hit by the small items, so you don't actually take damage. But some of the larger pieces of furniture, you just managed to avoid as Haraga is pulling you out, and they just crash and shatter into the wall behind you.
Oh yeah, guess we better not check this room.
At that, by the way,
As soon as
Haraga
you
attempts
step
to... Sorry, go
outside
ahead.
the room, the door slams closed with a loud bang.
I should probably have knocked first.
I'm glad you're okay, Reister. And at that, Haraga moves to try to pick up Reister in a big hug.
She's gotten a lot more affectionate with you.
It's unusual.
Hmm.
Not unwelcome, but unusual.
So no contesting of the hug. You take the hug.
No,
you
no
accept it?
contesting of the hug.
Big squeeze and then a drop and says,
Okay. That's my ribs.
"Of course,
Not any harder, please. Otherwise,
you're part of the pack, Reister.
Please don't break him.
Never."
Well then, where next? And she looks around the group.
well, that door looks glossed over. That door looks glossed over. Though I can strangely enough see into the room for some reason. But I see nothing of interest.
Can't see the whole room.
We should tell that room we're coming back with fire.
No. And Rice stands directly in front of the door, knocks on it, and says, I would just like to apologize for just storming into your room. I did not know it was occupied.
Roll persuasion.
Come on, Reister. Yes!
You can't bend wood. Look, I know that, you know that, but this door looks pretty stupid.
That's a good one, isn't it? Right. Inside the room you hear several soft thumps as you hear things falling to the floor.
Well, at least nothing will be thrown at us if for some reason that door gets opened. At least not directly.
They hurt my snoot.
Yes, help.
It's brand new.
Aww, they scuffed your snoot.
Yeah, she's rubbing her nose like. "Hmm."
Oh, it's all good. And
Does it?
Reister gives Haraga a pet.
Does it look okay? She's just moving around in angles.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Cool.
So where next?
Well, as I said, unless we want to go upstairs, our main option is this door.
Alright.
And Reister takes charge and carefully tries to peek into the room.
Roll stealth. Okay. You peer into the room. Being careful and quiet as you can. And inside the room you see 4 creatures. Roughly about 5 feet tall. They appear to be gangly and spiny, and each one of them has one large eye in the very center of its forehead. The front 2 appear to be grooming each other, much like chimps, whereas the back 2 appear to be polishing what appears to be a goat frozen in amber with leather armor.
Oh,
A small
great.
cooking pot on its head.
Oh, I found Terry.
Wait, have you... But what was? What?
You remember the thing about the vessel, right? That the voices were talking about? I found what might be the essence of Terry. Taken care of by these creatures. Oh, great! Someone's coming.
Hello. We're friends of Terry's.
As you say that, the creature kind of lops forward on its front knuckles. You notice its hind legs are shorter than its front by quite a substantial margin. So it's moving a bit like a chimp. And it kind of moves forward and does like the little puppy head tilt, looking at you guys, and then just blinking its big eye.
Haraga extends her mitt palm up.
You hold out your palm, and it kind of scooches forward and starts sniffing your hand, and it reaches out with little clawed fingers and takes your paw and kind of turns your paw over, like it's just examining what you are. And as it's holding your paw, it kind of straightens up, and as it stands up on its back legs, it's like it's now over 5 feet, and it seems to lean in, looking at you, and looking at your big fuzzy mane of hair. It reaches its claws forward over your head, and you can see it just start scratching through your mane. It brings its other hand up and starts picking through your mane. But now this activity has got the attention of the others. And they kind of come and look at your party.
Lane, you can talk with animals, right? You wouldn't be able to talk with these individuals.
Meanwhile, Haraga is remaining calm, but she's clearly trying to draw the attention of the creatures, and if they hurt her, she is poised to instantly attack them. If they hurt her. But she's trying to keep them occupied, so she looks back at the others and then moves in. She moves in. She gets into the center of them. She's curious to see what's going to happen, and she's not being aggressive or hostile at all.
Elaine?
The creatures start to surround you, and they start talking back and forth in this guttural tone.
Elaine, I could really use your help now.
Of your body. One of them starts kind of fiddling with your pack, just like playing with the fastening. It's like he's just playing with the buckle because it's shiny and clacky. Another one seems to like poke at your belt. One starts, just kind of pokes Gala's hoof and then seems to lose interest and goes back to playing with your mane. Another one just kind of joins and just starts poking and pulling at your fur.
Is Seth gone?
Seth, are you okay?
Seth?
Did we lose Seffi?
Seth?
Seth Walt?
He's still in the chat, but he may have been called away. I didn't hear him say anything.
Severick?
Is
it okay if we continue the scene while we're waiting?
Sure.
I just want to
will
make sure
say
we
straight up that Speak with Animals would not work with these guys because they are not animals.
Okay. In that case, Haraga's going to call over to Terry. Terry, are these your friends?
Terry is frozen in a block of amber.
Oh no!
Right, let me actually just get the proper description of this room.
Okay, sorry.
Fair enough. So, know that you aren't just going to pile in and attack these things.
We're not, yeah.
So, in this room, you notice that there's a soutily tiled floor. Where is the... There it is. This room has amber glazed walls and a floor of pure polished black marble. Ignore my colourful tiles. 2 amber sarcophagi stand in the alcoves to the west and east. A third sarcophagus that once stood in the north alcove lies shattered on the floor. In its place is Terry and Amber. Clustered in the middle of the room are 4 loathsome, hunched creatures. One of each has a large single baleful eye. You've already discovered that. You do, however, notice that The shards of the cracked vault are kind of pushed out of the way, and there are scrapings on the floor. So it looks like these creatures brought Terry into this room.
Hmm.
This creature turns round and basically starts picking over Reister. It's like pulling at his hood, looking at his sleeves. At one point, it kind of like tries to pull out one of your daggers to examine it.
Don't want you to hurt yourself.
You start all chittering in that language again. So, Reister, what languages do you speak?
Reister speaks Common, Elvish, and Dwarven, as well as Thieves' Cant.
Okay, you do not understand these creatures. Zabornik, what languages do you speak?
Druidic, Common, and Aquan.
You do not understand these creatures. I see.
1 sec.
While Icy's doing that, I will tell you I speak Common, Minotaur, and Lycan.
Okay. That's one thing I have not updated on my sheet. So what I currently have is Common and Draconic.
Okay, unfortunately not. Let's see. What is... nope. I just can't help. I will check for Elaine.
Yeah, I'm back. Had to sort them out quickly.
You alright, darling?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, can you confirm for me what languages Elaine and Samara speak?
Okay, Samara. Let's see. Samara's got Infernal, Abyssal, Sylvan, and Druidic. And Elaine has got Celestial. Let's see, Celestial, Common, and Druidic Infernal.
Okay, none of yous understand these creatures. They appear to be
Anyone-
chattering amongst themselves.
Anyone have any spell that allows you to comprehend any spoken language?
This one comes over and seems kind of in awe of Zabornik.
Oh.
Hello.
Kind of like, do that really invasive chimp behavior where they come over and they kind of like touch you and move you around to examine you. Kind of doing that with your beak, trying to like move your head around, and then start shuffling around. It just gently starts petting the moss on the back of your shell.
Zabornik is going to pull out a hard candy and offer it.
Sniffs at it, licks at it while it's still in your hand, so the tongue kind of goes over your claws for a sec. Then it just closes its mouth around your hand, and you feel its tongue just wrap around the sweet as it pulls away, leaving slobber in your claws, and it's now just rattling the sweet around its teeth. It goes back to basically poking at your shell and the moss.
I feel like they're not entirely hostile.
Yeah, too bad that we can't communicate with them. Or does anyone here have a spell that'll comprehend what they're saying?
I'm afraid not, no.
Yeah, a lot of icy spells are combat focused.
This one here seems to be taking great pleasure in bopping around Haraga's tail.
Yeah, Haraga is trying to keep it occupied, so she is whipping her tail around in all kinds of different directions to try to keep it interested. Because the whole point is she's like, sorry.
This one is just happily like grooming and is just pulling little gnats and bugs out of your fur and is just crushing them between its claws and throwing it across the room.
What bug? She's clean. No, I know. I'm kidding. No, she's like trying her best not to enjoy the sensation, but she is.
This one, again, attempts to steal a dagger from Reister.
I told you, no. I know it is interesting and it seems a nice toy, but it is dangerous.
Moves instead and starts plucking at Icy's clothes, just like lifting the sleeves and wiggling your arm. At one point, it like wraps its claws around your horn and just kind of tries to wiggle your head.
They seem to be a little bit like magpies, in the sense that they want to take everything that's not nailed down. Or
Say
monkeys.
they have more of a childlike curiosity.
Yes, that too, but we should be careful that they don't hurt themselves then, if they are truly like children.
Here's a question for the DM. We don't understand the language, but can I roll anything to figure out if I have a vague idea of what the language could be?
You can try. Roll me a history check. Okay, with that, in your travels, you've encountered a lot of languages, and you have heard this from a certain small, blue-skinned gnome. Crazy little fellow. But you did find that the language was Undercommon.
So, if I'm not misremembering what this sounds like, I think these are subterranean beings. What they're speaking sounds like Undercommon, which means that they live, under where others commonly live.
I do know about the Underdark, so I do know that there's others there than besides the Dark Elves.
So one thing I can say for sure is that they're not gonna like bright lights, so be careful with that.
What do we do, elders? Zbornak.
I see what's on a nice light spell. Say what now?
I think
Do you
I think
cast
they-
light?
No.
I think they could be they're curious. They could probably be distracted somehow.
Should I just get up and get Terry and bring him out?
Nah. They're probably possessive of whatever he is now.
So you were thinking of a small illusion somewhere that would be drawing their attention.
Oops, sorry. I was trying to look this up.
What are those other things in there?
Haraga's going to get up and start to investigate these very slowly. She's going to be like, "I'm not threatening at all. Do."
Okay. Let's get a description of these things. It is a rough block of solid amber. It's 8 feet tall, 5 feet wide, and 5 feet thick. As you look into the depths of the amber, you see what appears to be a slither or wisp of utter darkness. It's no more than a few inches long, but it seems... The thing itself is completely stationary, but the inside of it seems to slowly turn and twist.
Ooh,
Do you touch the amber?
no. Haraga looks over here.
It is the same.
She describes it to Reister, then she comes to the door and calls out because she heard Ez say that, right? That's why I was reacting to.
Yeah.
And she calls over to Ez and says, Ez, and then she describes what she's seen. It I don't like it.
So what do you think they are?
I don't know. I don't know stuff like that. Something bad.
I mean, usually you don't lock people in, or entities in amber. Too bad none of us speak Undercommon, or we would be able to hopefully understand what they're saying.
Does anybody have comprehend languages?
I was asking that earlier.
These two creatures, they are picking over Icy with a lot of intensity. And eventually, one of them gets its claw around the cord of Icy's necklace and just kind of pulls it out. As the pearl is revealed, they point and chitter excitedly. One of them grabs Icy's hand and tries to pull her into the room. Do you resist?
It's going to go so great. That's in character, by the way.
Danta fadi sanda shus.
You know what? My curiosity is getting the better of me, so yeah, she hesitantly follows.
Okay.
That might not be it. That you may want to not do that, I think.
They follow you, they basically drag you into the center of the room. And these two now have completely abandoned following Haraga and are now chittering amongst each other. And they seem quite pleased with themselves. And they start pointing at the amber, like holding up their hands and pointing at the amber.
I recommend you come.
Jabs at the pearl, and then jabs over at the amber. Scurries over and places its palm on the sarcophagus and looks to you.
Well. Huh.
Rice is looking like he's fighting off the biggest migraine, if you see him. This is going to go so well. I'm definitely not being sarcastic right now.
Well, Icy is not going to touch the amber because she doesn't know what happened to Terry or what. Or why he's now encased in amber. So she's going to respectfully decline.
Guys, she said no.
Just kind of tilt their heads, and he starts like open-handed slapping the amber and looking at you.
This baby can hold so many souls inside.
Guys, she said no.
Haraga's getting impatient.
Yes, I don't know what that is, and I'm not going to interact with it. So I appreciate that you like me, but I'm going to decline.
This
and
one tugs on your tail to get your attention, and then scurries over here and starts open palm slapping on the other one.
Oh my god.
Yes, no, thank you. I'm not sure what that is. So, as I said, I appreciate that you like me, but I'm going to decline. And she starts trying to back out of the room.
They don't stop you, but they look disappointed. They seem to chitter at each other. if you want, you can try and roll insight on it to see if you can determine what their tone is.
Yeah, Haraga's been trying to figure out what's going on with them.
Yeah,
She's
Rice
annoyed.
is going to try. Rice is going to try to figure out what they're saying. What
Okay.
the gist is all.
The both of yous, and Icy too, you get the impression that as Icy is backing away, they're kind of looking at each other going, can you believe that? I know, right? It's like, how rude.
Thing is, we don't understand what you're trying to tell us, and without knowing more.
Do these creatures seem evil? Can Haraga make within Haraga's insight, or do they have the stench of evil around them? I'm being abstract. I'm not looking for a definitive.
Well, if you give me a second, I'll give you a bit.
Oh, sorry.
If you have a look in the Dice&Dolts chat, I shall paste an image of what these things look like.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jurnis, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I was just in response that if you give me a sec, I'll get a picture of them. I wasn't trying to describe anything.
Oh.
So, don't panic. But yeah, they seem pretty disappointed. This one kind of lopes past you.
Yeah, I'm not the right person to ask because they look adorable to me. I want to pet them all.
Goes back to playing with Haraga's tail.
Haraga swishes her tail around to make a game of it and trying to avoid it, but playfully. And then she calls over back to Irina. Irina, do you want me to touch these things? Do you want me to try?
Do not.
I'm not sure that's a good idea. At least not until we find out what exactly they are.
I just don't understand what's happening and I want to find things and get out of here. No offense, she says up to the mists.
Well, ever since you've made your deal, the mists that were following you have just dissipated.
She still thinks they're there listening, so she's talking to them every so often.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry.
They're just making noises.
Haraga comes in and decides to try something. She is going to come back in. She's going to sit, and she's going to see if she can get one to come up to her the way a puppy would if she sits down.
Yeah, the one that was playing with your tail follows you in, and as you sit down, this one comes over and starts basically pulling at your cheeks and at your ears. You seem to get the impression that they don't know what you are, and they're trying to figure it out.
And she makes yips at them, and she moves to try to scratch one of them to get its attention back.
As you flex your claws at it, it kind of hops back.
She gestures, come on over, and she makes a scratching motion with her claws, like scritcha. She's talking in pantomime. She knows that they can communicate that way. They're showing the slapping and all that, so she's like, scratch. Come on over, scratch.
Again.
And very slowly, she moves to her claws and tries to give it scritches.
Okay. Its skin is weird.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like it feels tough, but it's also like a weird rubbery texture. So as you touch it, it kind of gives way, and you almost feel like you're gonna push through its skin, but it stops after a moment. They are cold and clammy.
She's still gonna try to give it some good scritches.
It doesn't seem to like the sensation and backs away.
Oh, okay.
This one
She looks.
is staring at Icy's staff and keeps poking at it.
And Haraga calls back to the others. She says, "They don't like scritches. I think they're evil."
Icy is going to try and gently keep her staff away from them.
They look annoyed and chitter at each other whenever you do that. But they don't chase it. But it keeps glancing at it. This one comes back towards Zabornik. Basically starts going over your shell again. It seems to be drawn towards your right arm, where it starts tapping its little claws on the crystallized sap.
Oh!
Yeah, this is private place.
After a moment, it starts to try and scratch at the edge of the sap.
Oh, yikes.
Zabornik is going to once again use the same trick as she did with Haraga before, and sort of slowly turns away.
The creature follows you around.
Yeah, jeez.
Okay, this time for real, she uses Druidcraft to project the sound of, let's say, a large bird further down the hallway. Nothing too threatening, just, oh, it's chirping over there.
Okay. You see it stops, lets go of your arm, and does like little meerkat standing to like try and look over Samara's head.
Okay.
As you start to move away, it turns and looking annoyed.
Is it? I'm just, I'll be over here. You'll be over there. It's fine.
What do you think I see? What should we do?
Not entirely sure. Seemed very excited about me and the amber there.
Well, they're not excited about me. And I made a deal too. I don't know what we're supposed to do.
And Haraga does, and I will call. Sorry, go ahead.
I said it is true, but they're not. Player can't remember if I actually did this before, so I'm not sure if it. Okay.
And by the way, I will let Jurnis know she did growl for real, so I don't know if they'll not like that or what, but she did growl.
This one that was paying attention to you is kind of backing away warily. You see it's kind of now on the defensive.
Yeah.
Okay. The mist did get in contact with me first. So
Maybe they work for them? Maybe these things are the others they talked about? Did they say that to you too?
no, these things weren't mentioned.
That was where everybody can hear it, right, Jurnis?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
She says maybe these are the others. Maybe Terry's one now too. I want to break it all.
As it says, the evidence that you can see on the floor, it looks like Terry was dragged in here. He was amplified somewhere else.
Yeah, oh, I know. I'm just
So
being
the
Haraga.
remnants of this broken sarcophagus are kind of all pushed to the side and against the back wall, basically making room for him.
Yeah.
They could be cargo culting.
Possibly.
Should we just go? I'm impatient and I hate this room.
Yeah, they're not hostile, and they just seem annoyed or disappointed that we're leaving. So I suppose, yes, we should just
Go
leave
for
them
now.
for now.
Yeah.
Not sure what this room is or what significance it holds. So
Maybe we'll find out later. It's
Yeah.
she just says it's annoying in there, Samara.
I have covered.
fine.
Let's try other places and other doors. I want to leave. I want to be outside.
Well, after all, as this door is still sealed, as I understand it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, wish I knew how to open those doors.
If Haraga, that was said out loud, right?
Yep.
Haraga goes over to this one and tries to get its attention.
Yes. It
She
was
points
starting
to
to
this-
wave bye-bye to you, but seems a little surprised that you've doubled back towards it.
And then she points to this door and like motions as if to try to open it, and then back to the creature like, can you open this?
Roll me a performance check, and I'll roll an insight to see if you can pantomime what you're wanting.
This giant knoll. Do 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 do. Oh my god.
Well, it rolled a nat 20, so let me see its wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she's like trying to turn the knob or pull the puller or whatever you have to do to get in.
It watches you do your terrible performance and then skitters over towards the door. It looks over towards Haraga and then basically mimes holding up its arms, saying something, and then pushes on the door. And then points towards the ceiling. And
Haraga looks up at the ceiling.
you get the impression that he's pointing to the upper floor.
Oh.
He repeats the actions where he's standing at the door, holding his arms up, saying something, then pushing the door, and then pointing upwards.
And Haraga's like, and the words are up there?
With that insight, Reister, yeah, that seems to be what this thing is implying, that it needs some sort of passphrase to open it, and someone upstairs knows where to get it.
Let's go upstairs and get the thing we need.
You're speaking out what I'm thinking. And Raisa waves bye-bye to the creature.
It waves back.
Elder, leader, Ez. Did you see what I did?
You as well.
Did you see what I did, Elder, leader, and Ez?
Yes, very good, Haraga. It was quite clever, actually.
Yeah.
It's good to see
Super
that
smart.
turning into a gnoll hasn't ruined your brain.
I'm even smarter now.
Rita makes no comment, but Ez has gone, of course, dear.
Did you see, Elder?
Yes, I saw.
Thank you. And there's a thank you, Elder.
I didn't say I approve, I just said I saw.
Her shoulders sink. She was beaming and then just like, oh.
Seems she really wants your approval, Zabonik.
Well, then she should make better choices, right?
Walking
Irina
along the wall.
kind of half shrugs, and you get the impression that maybe half agrees with you. Alright, let me just... Are you all heading up the stairs? Are you doing anything else?
Haraga's heading up the stairs.
Yeah.
Dejectedly with her tail hanging and her ears down.
Aww.
She's miserable. She was that gutted her. She looks really down. She probably took a point of psychic damage.
Alright, who am I missing there?
That was rough, Zabornak. That was rough.
Whoops. Oh my god. Fucking... I'm trying to drag a token, and the whole thing is just zipping all over the goddamn show.
Zippity-doo-dah. Oh, wait, I can't do it anymore.
Alright, let's bring you over there. And now I need to get Haraga a new token. Because Haraga is now a gnoll.
She's now a Devnol. If she learns how to program, she's a Devnol.
Alright, okay. So, bringing you back upstairs.
How did you all overtake me? Doesn't matter.
Now, if you want to quickly arrange yourselves.
Somewhat okay with that, where I am.
Okay. So, you are on start. Let me just quickly get to here.
Guess we should try the other side. Thing is, there's no good way across aside from going through the danger zone.
Down these stairs, it is clattered in dust. The only evidence of passage appears to be small hoofprints.
Well, Terry was here.
Now then, Reister.
Yes.
I'm just gonna give you a quick reminder because you may have forgotten considering what happened after he's opened the chest. But you do remember in the room where you dropped to the floor below the chest, there was another door on the opposite side.
Yeah, we might actually try.
Welcome back, Lucy.
We might actually try that door on the other side of that trap room.
Well then, what does everyone else think? Elaine, Samara, Icewind, Zabona?
So there we go with that.
Yeah, I don't have a better plan right now.
Well, in that case, Ricer storms out and to the room. To the edge of the room, after all. He's going to be very, very apprehensive about falling in again.
Does everyone follow?
I'd say so, yeah.
Hopefully.
Okay. I would say... Let me see. How smart is Irene? Yeah, okay. Before you get up to where the jump is, Irina doubles back into the room where the model is and picks up one of the old boards, the spare wood that was lying around, and basically puts a plank across there. Just so you have a way to get past. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to drag you all over.
Yeah, Rockstar was just jumping over the gap.
You don't want to make a athletics check for that?
He has got work. So, he should be able to do it with a running jump.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want me to roll or do...
I want you to roll, yes. You made a jump before Arena made the bridge.
And athletics, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Alright.
Barely scrambling, but still.
You managed to make it.
Yeah, I should have thought of putting a plank or something across.
Luckily, Irina rolled a decent intelligence.
Alright, now Reister has to face the bottomless pit currently.
Okay. So you kick your way through this sea of skulls, and as you look into the room, you realise that the floor is back.
Oh, the
Chest
trap
on the
has
roof
reset.
is now closed again.
Oh. Oh, look. It's a resetting trap. Well, in that case, he's going to check the door on the other side.
Okay.
He's going to investigate it and not just like I've almost clicked. And given that there are no traps, I hope.
Maybe.
Okay. There doesn't appear to be, but as you are investigating this trap, just let me arrange something real quick. Where is
I
it?
have no idea what that is except someone pinged into the dark.
So, as you are, before you really do anything, you've been standing in this room for a little while she's fought through the skulls. You have left the doors open, and suddenly a raven comes flying into a room, flies directly to Elaine, lands on his shoulder, and starts frantically pecking at him.
Elaine's gonna pop his beast speech and goes, okay, I'm here, I'm understanding.
This is Kiri. And she is screaming at you, danger, danger, danger.
Oh shit, where's Arena?
She and Esmerelle stayed in the dining room so Ez could look at the carvings on the wall.
Elaine's gonna run back into...
Okay. Does everybody run?
Yep.
As you enter the room, you notice half out of a gaping void in the wall is the lower half of Irina. She's got both her feet planted on the side of the portals. One arm, lichen form, is dug into the wall. There are large scratch marks that look like she has been trying to hold on, and she is slowly being drawn into this portal.
Grabbing, pulling.
Same.
Okay. So, use grab and use pull. Roll strength checks.
I think my 15 is decent.
Okay. With your combined efforts, there is a very powerful force dragging Arena into this portal. But with your combined efforts, she's finally pulled free. She crashes back into the ground and lets out a howl of fury, gets up and dives back at the wall. But the portal has closed. Irina is screeching and shrieking and is digging at this wall with her claws, pulling chunks off, digging into bricks, screaming for Ez. As you realize, Ez is not here. I would like Haraga, Icewind, and Sir Elaine to make wisdom saving throws. Haraga with disadvantage.
Okay. Can we... Wisdom saves. Yeah, I only have... Oh, okay. I only have a +2 to wisdom. You know, it's not that...
Sephi
What
and Icy,
the
you
fuck?
feel a clench in the pit of your stomach as you are terrified at the bestial rage that Irina is showing right now, but you can stand there. Haraga, you are terrified. The pack leader is furious.
Irina?
She's still screaming and raging and
Kiri, get in there
pulling
now.
at the wall.
I do have a question before we go on. Is this terror that I would want to retreat from the leader, or is this terror that I want to defend the leader, or is that something I can decide myself?
Have you ever been in a room where suddenly someone that you really respect just gets really angry and starts screaming? It's that kind of fear.
Yes, and Haraga is like starts gnawing at her own paws. Her front paws, she's like gnawing on them, like watching, and like she's like shaking.
Okay, Irina is still tearing at the wall, just roaring and screaming.
Irina.
What happened?
She's just absolutely screaming, "That fucking bitch shot!"
Oh.
Elaine's basically sent Kiri back into Irina.
Okay, Kiri goes back into Irina, but Irina is still raging.
Irina.
Tell us what happened. Can't do anything if we don't know.
Hold on. A second. So you're making this difficult. I love you, but please get off the table. Okay. She just keeps repeating, just screaming after Ez, calling Shar all the names under the sun.
Irina, please calm down. I know it won't help, but I'm just asking.
After a few moments, you can see she starts to slow down. Her claws and hands are bleeding, and she just lets out a loud, mournful howl as she falls to her knees and starts crying.
And Haraga joins in the howl, like with a massive anxiety. She's howling too. So yeah, the animals in the world probably hear that.
Yeah. Elaine just wraps his arms around her, discreetly burns the last of his healing touch to sort of hands out.
She turns on you suddenly and just grabs you in a hug. And she's just ugly crying now. She wanted me to let her go. Why would she do that? I had her.
She didn't want you to get dragged along with her. Whatever Shah has planned.
But I had her.
Come on, he says we're talking about you to get out of this somehow.
She's just weeping.
Very trepidatiously drops to her knees and nuzzles up, lying down sideways against Irina's leg or foot or wherever she is.
Check wraps one of her arms around your head.
She nuzzles up against, like, trying to provide maximum warmth to the leader.
She sobs for a while, slowly starts to compose herself. Something about this place. It gave Shah a conduit. something here made a deal that allowed her to take Ez out of Barovia. I could barely feel her. She's like holding onto your chest now.
But you can feel her.
Barely.
But she's still there.
Ez has lived for 10,000 years. She survived worse than this.
No, she hasn't. I should know. I've seen her life through her eyes. Lady, she's in the
Yeah.
clutches of a god that hates her.
All the more reason to succeed in our ambitions so we can get out of this place and find her.
Or at least find a way to talk to someone, to Suna's sister.
That's a terrible idea. Shah will use anything in her power to torture Ez. If she gets her hands on any of us.
I'm sorry, I meant talking to Selene. If we can get through to Selene, maybe she can help.
Maybe.
We can dream together.
As long as you feel Ez, there's hope.
I'm just going to very quickly roll something for Elaine.
Okay, what was that for?
He's remembering stories. He has a suspicion as to where Shah is.
Do you share that with Arena?
He's in two minds about whether to do so because he knows where Shah's imprisoned. I have a suspicion as to where she could have taken her.
Well,
Dark side of the moon.
tell me, Elaine.
You know how my grandfather came from the north of where Holborn is?
So you've said, but I don't know what that is.
There are stories. An empire to the north where they managed to imprison Shah.
Oh, I'd heard of that. Isn't there a play about that?
There's a fair few, but I have my suspicions Ez could be there.
Then we need
She
to get out of
could be.
Barovia.
She could be safe. The people there are friendly. They're no fans of Shah. So Ez would likely be a... well... she would have friends there.
Yeah, too bad we can't send him a letter or something.
That is true.
Making the assumption that she's just been dumped off in your plane. What if Shah took us somewhere else? All that I know is that she's not in Barovia anymore.
This was a trap.
No. This was opportunism.
I don't know that word.
Shah saw the chance to get Ez and she took it. It happened at any time.
Could have happened at a camp.
need to get out of here. We need to get
Yes.
out of Barovia. We need to find this place. And we need to
Yes.
get Ez.
Yes.
I'm right.
Fairly certain as soon as we're out, Ez is coming towards us. If there's someone who can find a way out, it's Ez. You don't survive 3 years with virtually no contact with the people around. Just on sheer stupidity. She knows how to weasel herself out of the situation.
Ez is cunning and conniving, and Sean knows that. Shah wouldn't have done this unless she had somewhere to put Ez. She already tried using her mother's soul to seal her in a box for 10,000 years. To weaken her. The only thing we can hope is that she's arrogant enough to try and torment her before she kills her.
Oh, I know, gods. She
Okay.
definitely is.
I'm by your side, Irina.
Just absentmindedly pets at Haraga where she is glaring at the wall. She has dug a fair bit into this wall. She tore away the fiasco, she tore away the plaster. She even managed to pull some bricks out of it. There are deep gouges and scratch marks all over the wall.
Meanwhile, Haraga's just like pressing herself up against Irina. She's not going to embrace Irina. That's not how their dynamic works. She's going to just lean up against her really hard, like in a submissive way.
Irina, I promise you, we will find Ez. We will rescue her if she needs rescuing. That is my promise.
She kind of looks over at you and gives you a grim nod, but there are tears just matting her fur.
Irina, remember? This is why we're here. This is what we're doing. Let's get out of here.
Let's find the fucking secret keeper of this place and get out of here.
Yes.
Look at fucking
Yes.
Strahd, seal him in his little box, and then get the fuck out of here.
He will suffer, we will leave, and we will find Ez.
He's just kind of sitting there, just absentmindedly petting Haraga. He's glaring at the hole.
Nothing.
And then Haraga moves to Haraga lifts herself up from where she was knelt down, but she's doing it very slowly because what she's trying to do is she's not trying to pick Irina up, but she's moving herself like, oh, you're absentmindedly petting me. If I lift myself up, you're going to come with me. And so she's very slowly doing that to try to get Irina up on her feet.
I just got a picture of Icy there. Just this whole emotional, awkward sequence, and Icy's just like, well, shall we continue with the dungeon?
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Yes, it did. Still can't believe she ordered me to let him go.
Sometimes orders can be hard, but they're good orders no matter what sometimes. If you went too, we would die in here.
I very much
Then we
doubt
couldn't
that.
rescue.
We're all too stubborn to die.
You're too stubborn to let Ez die, so...
And Ez is too stubborn to die.
Oh yes, that she is.
I need to hit something.
Yes, me too. Let's go.
Well, there's a bunch of skulls you can throw through the room.
Hurrah! She says, Irina, I go first. Then things find me and not you. And she moves back and she just barrels. Now, is this door open?
Yeah. This is the one that
And
Reister was examining.
Okay, I can't get through it though for some reason.
That's
Yeah.
because I haven't opened it yet.
Oh, okay.
Would
She,
you
like-
please open it?
Haraga pulls the door open and just stomps through, and she's like hyena roaring as she does. She's mad about what happened to Ez.
Okay. Alright, well, before you get through there,
No stealth.
I would say that Irina pauses at the door, looks back at the hole one more time, and Samara, as you're next to her, you see that she's just crying again. She's moving on. I'm just going to drag the rest of these in, because I'm going to assume you would follow before the Suicide
Yeah, we
Squad
would.
runs in here.
Yeah, Haraga's just like stomping though. She's not paying any attention. She's on the edge of a rage.
Alright, just let me quickly go through this.
Oh shit. Oh shit. I just noticed there's something in that room. I had bottom screen.
Alright!
Oh no. Sorry everybody.
Now, I would like you to there is a bit of a narration to this, so let me set the scene before you react, please. So, please wait.
Loading, please wait.
Okay.
I suppose. Yeah, as meeting people from the Shadowlands.
So, this 15-foot high room contains the trappings of royalty. Ornate furniture, exquisite rugs and tapestries, and decorative statuary. Everywhere you look are lit candelabras atop small tables. The beauty of the decor is undone by thick dust and cobwebs. Standing in the center of the room is a decrepit skeleton clad in tattered robes. Red pinpoints of light burn in the skeleton's eye sockets. Do I know? Hang on. Do I know you? It asks.
Oh no.
Thank him, salesman.
Oh no.
I mean, Elaine doesn't even need to roll to know what this is.
Can I
Even
Good
he-
puppy.
Rah!
No, bad puppy.
Raga.
Back down.
Stand
Naughty
down.
puppy. Would you like a bone?
Look, sir. We just had a very, very bad moment. So please forgive our bad manners.
Actually, sir, I'm a puppy. You're in shock, so I won't take that personally.
You can't just leave your hounds off their leash. Very rude.
I take it you are
Fine.
the master of this humble temple,
He
the
is.
caretaker.
Am I? Oh, yes, I am. Ha, hello.
He would
I
look-
am. Huh. Now, this is curious. I don't quite remember. Been here for quite a while. Oh, hello. Do I know you?
Elaine is just Elaine's just kind of looking at this look, and he's really not sure what to say.
Ask him the words for the doors.
And that's when it's talking.
The puppy speaks! Oh, that's delightful.
How long have
Good
you
puppy,
been
would you
in
like a
here?
bone?
Yes.
Like, reaches into his robe, and you hear a crack as he pulls off one of his own rib bones. He goes, "Here, puppy. Come on."
How long have you been in here?
Oh, I've been here for quite some time. I came here because I heard there was quite a lot of knowledge trapped within these walls. And that was quite true. Some nasty business as well. Whispers and the like. They've left me alone for ages.
Knowledge.
Elaine. Elaine's going to very quickly pop a divine sense.
Okay, what are you looking for?
Just trying to sense if this lich is evil or not.
Okay. Bear with me. There are changes to the stat block of this lich. You are aware that he is undead. And by nature, liches are usually evil because the rituals that come across to actually become a lich are horrific. However, you don't sense an overwhelming aura of evil of other undead that you've encountered. So you have a feeling that he's not so much evil as he is a mildly naughty boy.
Elaine definitely relaxes at that point.
Oh, you've got another one. Oh, no, wait, no, that's a werewolf. So, far be
Elaine,
it from
do
me
you
to
want to
be
take this?
rude, but what brings you to my bedchamber?
Oh. Well, it is no, it's not a funny story. It's a long story. One that you certainly don't have the time for.
I have all the time in the world.
Elaine?
Yes, as you say, I'm not sure how long you've been in here for, but when you entered this place, who ruled this land?
I need to check the description in the book. Give me a moment.
Let me scan my memory.
Response loading. Please wait.
When I came to this place, the original masters had long since died or gone mad. And that is when I took residence. I cleared out a bunch of nasty creatures and critters and those who had gone to madness after bargaining with the riffraff downstairs. And then, after some time, less people came. And when I investigated it, there was terrible mist that surrounded. Darkness, but I pay no heed. I stay
Yes,
here.
but do you remember who ruled this land
I believe
when you came here?
it was a young noble by the name of Argenhost. Charming fellow.
Yes. It's quite a noble man. You came across
do
some.
you know him?
Sadly not. He was slain a very long time ago.
Oh, that's disappointing. Did have a delightful taste in art. Oh, hello. Do I know you?
Yeah.
I'm joking, my dear. My memory is
Well-
bad, but it is not that bad.
I was about to ask whether or not your memory had faded a bit.
And second, Tom.
It has.
What's your name?
I'm afraid that I have forgotten.
Is it in? Do you have books? Do you have things you write in?
I do, yes, but none from before my memory faded. Sadly.
Haraga's annoyed. She says,
Do you know the words to open the doors?
He thinks, and he kind of crosses his arms and starts scratching at his little bony forehead, and you can hear the hollow tap as he taps his forefinger against his head. You get the feeling that if he had flesh, he'd be frowning.
Haraga's pacing. She is annoyed. She wants to hit something really bad. She wants to punch this guy.
I did at one point.
Let me guess, you've forgotten.
Yes, that is rather irritating, isn't it?
And did you put it in any books?
No, those kind of passwords you don't write down, you know. You should never write down your passwords.
How do we get out of here?
By the way,
That's why I use NordVPN.
That's why I use LastPass.
Vampire Protection Network.
You all just stand and watch as he turns and looks at the walls and starts talking about password vaults.
What is a password vault?
Oh yes, I should let you know that this segment is sponsored content. No. Here, Friday.
Hashtag not spawn. Hashtag not spawn. And probably never spawn again.
There are perhaps ways to
Look at
restore
least
my memory,
at
but-
least
Does that count as vampire spawn?
Yeah.
look at least we're not going with Raid Shadow Legends.
Not Rady Shady stories.
Samara, you enter the room,
Yeah.
and the Lich kind of tilts his head. Well, you look mildly familiar.
Samara just she's not really sure how to react.
Well,
Yeah.
perhaps not you, but a father, perhaps?
My great uncle.
Ah. Familial connections. I knew it. Are you here looking for the same deal he did?
No. I'm here to stop him.
Ah, I see. Well, I wish I could offer you aid, but... He kind of half shrugs and taps his head.
Say, that big statue. You wouldn't know anything about it being able to throw, say, water balls?
Water balls? Are you talking about the really big statue or the little one?
Oh, I'm talking about the really big statue.
He
I
pauses.
shall.
And I have to roll. Performance here
No.
because he's intentionally lying.
No, he's just kind of stopping and thinking, like, well, as far as I'm aware, that statue is not inherently magical.
Well, it's thrown something at us when we tried to come in. So,
Have you checked
would
inside?
be-
There is a hatch.
oh, it's hollow. I did not know that.
Yes, it's actually quite spacious in there. I used to go up there and indulge in a few. Well, I've quite forgotten what I used to do up there.
Oh, thank goodness.
Huh. All right.
All books and a comfy chair.
Maybe
Not enough.
Raga.
Haraga looks over. Haraga looks over at the others and says,
maybe the words are there. I could climb up.
I'm not sure. Now, I will say, as you are looking and chatting to this lich, on the table behind him is a rather large, bronze-covered spellbook. It's in plain view, and there is an inscription on the spine.
Haraga says, and Haraga notices that?
Anyone who's kind of looking at the lich would be able to see it behind him.
Yeah.
Is that book yours?
Ah, yes. I believe so.
And
And it doesn't have your name in it?
I don't know. I haven't looked
May
at
I
it in
look?
some time.
And Haraga says, I'm a civilized beast. May I look?
I would rather you not touch that. It's rather important to me. But you are a very curious creature. Do you still want this? Nick holds out the rib bone that he's still holding.
She shakes her head and says, I need it to have meat on it. And I'm going to send a message.
Well, I'm sorry, my dear. You're about a millennia too late for that. And he reaches back into his robe and you hear his bone is reattached.
Oh, very nice trick.
Yes, well. When you're all skin and bones.
Well, less skin, more bones, yes.
I suppose that's true.
Haraga wipes at her mouth.
So,
Well, I guess we better not
I
disturb
would
you any
say-
longer.
Zabornik and Elaine. Actually,
Yeah.
and Samara too. I would like you to roll me a medicine check.
A bit late, isn't it?
Medicine. Medicine for someone.
Oh,
He's dead, Jim.
I think Elaine's still in shock.
you know what? May I roll medicine?
No, this would be out of your purview. So, with Zabornik, Elaine, and Samara, you have had experience in the past using magic to restore certain ailments of the mind. Zabornik, you have encountered a gentleman before who was constantly forgetting things, always had a very poor and weak memory. You were able to restore his mind with a lesser restoration spell. Or a greater restoration spell, sorry.
And what's wrong with you? Not enough, memory? Oh, great. I remember that word, but now I forgot my wife's name.
If I may, would you mind if I tried to help jog your memory a little bit?
Our elder is very
Goodness,
wise
you
and
are
very
a fascinating creature. He kind of leans, kind of looms over Zabornik.
Yes, I'm quite a looker, I know. So, if you were,
Symbiosis.
isn't it just?
Rude of me.
That's it's bronze and brains, I know.
My apologies, I got distracted by that fascinating symbiosis there. What were you saying?
I think I may be able to possibly jog your memory a little bit.
Okay, here we go out of character a little bit because I do notice as part of the spell greater restoration we would need diamond dust at least worth 100 GP.
We do have diamonds, but we
You do
don't.
have diamonds.
Yeah.
I would allow you to use a diamond for that.
Okay.
If nobody's in disagreement with this.
Nope.
Well, maybe.
I would say Elaine's still on high alert just in case.
Let's try this. So Zabornik just rummages through her component pouch, does a few little things, and then reaches out her finger and tips the forehead of the Lichy man.
Okay. You prod the skeleton. For a moment, the red lights in his eyes dim, almost to very soft dying embers. And after a few seconds, they flare back into bright, even brighter than before, as he blinks and seems to stand at a much straighter angle. He crosses his arms behind his back. I thank you, my dear. That is refreshing. It's a terrible thing to lose your mind. Your body can be repaired or replaced, but mind is a terrible thing to go.
Roll for initiative.
Isn't it just?
My
Sniff,
thanks.
sniff, sniff.
Well then, I suppose it is best that I introduce myself properly. My name is Exenthanta. I have
Alright.
been the unofficial steward of this temple for close to a millennia. If you would like, I would be more than willing to give you the passwords that you seeked.
Hello.
Hello. Do I know you?
I swear I hate this headset. I think you missed like 3 good jokes.
Aw, I'm sorry.
Oh, that sucks.
You can see he has a much calmer demeanor. He is speaking a little bit slower, as if he is considering what he is going to speak, what he's going to say.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna actually write his name down, because I'm pretty sure I have said it wrong.
Oh, and by the way, Rice is taking a look at the original of the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's written. Maybe there is a name written on there.
It's very
Well-
good. Put that page again. Yeah, you see that the spine on the book reads the Incants of Exenthander. So the name he just introduced himself is on the spine.
We're very tired. We're very sad. We just want to go home.
You're welcome to explore the temple further if you'd like. But I will warn you, there are a few denizens here who are less than cooperative.
Can you tell us which way to get to the thing we're looking for?
And what are you looking for?
Look to Irina. Haraga has no idea.
Irina is just kind of slumped against the wall. Just
What are we
doesn't
looking
seem
for,
to have the
everyone?
energy.
What are we looking for, everyone?
We are looking for means to, well,
Destroy Strahd.
yes, basically.
Ah, that's would-be conqueror. Well, he was an interesting soul.
Aren't we
It
also
was
supposed to
here
find
that
the...
he
Sorry.
sought out his powers. He made a dark deal with some of the denizens in the amber below. And when he
So now
slew his brother, the pact was sealed. This country was dragged into darkness.
Samara will step forward. She will drop not only the blonde illusion, but also her human face as well.
Yeah, I thought
Before
I
you do that, there's something important I need to...
Yes.
I'm sending a message to Samara.
Okay. My
Oh,
dear,
sorry.
your illusion held no sway on me. But yes, he has returned to this temple several times, seeking more power. He has taken bits and pieces, spells, incantations, dark gifts, and each time, well, the darkness in this temple grows. They feed on the very evil essence that he creates. So if you're looking for weapons to use against the creature here, that really depends on who you speak to.
Well, as of right now, we're speaking with you, good sir.
I just want to hit something. I mean... Oh, never mind.
Reister, with your passive perception, you notice on this table over here is a red gem. It seems to pulsate.
That is an interesting curiosity, sir. Mind if I take a closer look at this gemstone there?
Oh be wary, it's very annoying.
Well, maybe there is a meaning to.
So now I was going to briefly fill Xephanta in on why she's there and what Lissa did to basically try and get rid of Strahd, come in and take over from Strahd, and she's now trying to stop both of them.
My dear, that would have been very difficult if he has been slain. Oh, let me think. Probably just under a dozen times. So far, he always returns. He is trapped here as well as anyone else. This is his prison.
Well,
Dark Powers said
Always come back.
they said that if we killed him this time, Barovia would return to the world.
Let me guess. They said if you destroy him, not if you kill him. And he cannot be destroyed. My dear, those are double spook words.
I just have to make him suffer. She looks over it.
You can kill him, but you will not destroy him.
And how do we destroy him?
Well,
Surely there must be a way.
That's my dear. Let me think. He is bound to this land as it is to him. To destroy him would be to destroy this demi-realm. To separate the two of them would be impossible. Your best bet would be to perhaps fulfill the bargain that you made with Dark Powers. He points over to Haraga. They said they would free you from Barovia if you made him suffer.
Yes.
And perhaps formulate
we
some
all-
way of causing great suffering.
We were all essentially given the same deal. Or rather, we were all told, once we slay him, we would be able to leave.
Well, this place, he motions around the room, implying Barovia in general, is his prison, and it is set up to torture him. Maybe if you think of some greater way to torture or imprison him within his prison. They feed on his suffering.
If he were locked in his own mind, unable to move 1 inch, that would be even more suffering.
I was thinking. Yeah, what? Haraga shakes her head and says, sorry, go ahead.
The ruler does Strahd himself have to be the ruler, or can it be anyone of his bloodline?
It would be his bloodline, I suppose. Just in the corner, you hear Rena go, circle.
Circle.
They want him to suffer? Fine, we'll make him suffer. We'll kill him, force him to go back to his resting place, and then seal him in a box.
Yeah.
But better torture than to be permanently buried alive.
That's one option.
To be permanently hunted. Stripped of his power.
Then he'll be
Constantly
free.
having free and fearing every day for his life.
Oh shit!
So
And
kill him. He would just have to come back again and again.
And each time he'll regain his power and be just as big a threat as he is now. Maybe your Lycan friend is onto something. The Dark Powers thrive upon his evil and his suffering. If you want to fulfill your end of the bargain, you want him to suffer.
I like Irina's idea, Samara. I'm sorry. And then maybe you hire someone and their whole job is to knock on the box every 7 minutes.
After all, someone will have to take care of his prison.
I was more thinking we temporarily divert a river, bury him in the riverbed, and then just leave him.
Elaine, have you been telling Samara your plans?
I told you before, vampire in a baggie is not going to work.
No, actually, no. The running water does actually work.
There's just.
Right. While this conversation has been going on, did you touch the gem?
Oh, God.
Not yet, but his hand is hovering.
Okay, so what do you do with it?
He is going to first, you know what? He's going to use his best skill. Well, no, it's just his second best skill after not being good at survival. He's going to make an Arcana check, trying to figure out what the deal is with that stone outside of it, just blinking.
Elaine thinks for a second and goes,
There appears to be some
Not-
sort of magical force held within this gem.
Master Xanthar,
Yes.
are you at all familiar with the weapon that Sergei Lonzarevich possessed?
That was a very intriguing blade.
Strahd feared.
Yes, he fears it now. It was a
Would you?
radiant blade. Beautiful, reflected the sunlight wonderfully. It broke when his brother slew him. But then the blade was replaced with a shard of sunlight.
Would you be able to replicate it at all?
No. That, my dear, is a construction of many, many radiant and holy magics, and a personal blessing from the Morning Lord. Not something I can call down. My expertise are in the arcane, not the holy.
And now Reister is going to slowly move his hand towards the gemstone and trying to pick it up.
Okay. You pick up the gem. It's oddly warm, and you hear something echo in the back of your head. It fills your skull almost to a painful point. Yellow!
Pardon, I didn't catch that.
Yellow!
Hello?
Hi!
What happened?
I don't think your soft talk is picking up, Jurnis.
Hello?
Okay. Hello!
Terry?
Oh, hi!
What are you doing here?
I don't know. I licked something, and then I'm here.
You did kill Terry.
You know you're in a stone, right?
That explains why I can't see. This is weird.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe it's even weirder.
You know what? We need to seal
You
Terry in
only
with Strahd.
hear you only hear Reister's side of the conversation too, by the way.
Yes.
You don't know half of it, Terry.
There was a mean guy. He said he wanted to use my body. And I told him, no, you need my consent for that. And then I tried to leave, and then I saw something that looked tasty. And I licked it. And now I'm here.
God, Terry thought that it was a popsicle.
Oh, you couldn't describe to me who that person what that person looked like, could you?
White and wispy.
White and wispy. Well, that nails it pretty much down, yes?
Yeah. He said he wanted to make my body big and strong so that I could annoy the bad man in the castle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they tend to do that. Sorry, I need to talk to the other people around me. Old friend of ours.
Yes, that has been exceptionally annoying. I found it in the library.
In the library?
Yes.
You mean the one down the hall here?
No.
Oh,
The big library.
oh, the big...
It's, bear with me. It's through there, and he makes a motion towards this wall.
Okay.
And as he does, Jurnis realizes that she has not put a door there. So she has to take away the whole wall. So yeah, a door swings open. Alright.
Haraga sees the door swing open, and after she gives a nose boop to Samara's forehead, or attempts to rather, she moves toward the door to investigate.
Okay, you peer in and you see a small room. It's covered in dust, in cobwebs. Other than that, it's pretty empty.
Can you
It's,
give us directions to find things to hit?
I'm also
Well-
very hungry right now.
If you go through that door, there should be another door that opens up into the library. Some delightful books in there. Some of them are a little temperamental, but if you speak nicely to them, and speak the proper phrases. Downstairs there are some miscreants.
Oh, speaking of things that have a bit of a temper, there's a bedroom down there that's a little bit temperamental.
Oh, yes. That was one of the original inhabitants of this place. Rather spiteful, gentleman. Turned into a
Yeah.
poltergeist. Seems
Yeah.
very possessive of his room.
Yes, I mean, threw a boot at me and everything. If she hadn't pulled me out, probably been hit with what remained of a bed frame.
Yes, he is rather violent.
What's the phrase to say in the library?
Oh,
Just that.
hang on.
Blam.
Bear with me. I need to think. Lots
Oh,
of memory
okay.
floating around here. It doesn't actually give the phrase.
That's okay.
For shits and giggles, I'll just say he walks over to his desk, pulls out a piece of parchment, and just basically starts writing down instructions of keywords and which rooms or books they apply to.
Cool, thank you.
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
And you said there's things to hit in that library?
Well, there were some nasty ones downstairs. There is also a crack into the old vault. If it hasn't been breached, and I don't think it has been, there's a golem in there and some trinkets. Noose of mine.
Wait, you mean a vault? Well, it was something like a storage room just a floor beneath us, and Bryce is actually pointing downstairs. Seemed like there was no golem there.
Well, there's two vaults.
Oh, great. You wouldn't happen to know where the other golem went, because I didn't see any golem dust. Then again, I'll just say, with all the dust and cobwebs.
roamed the halls of this place for a while, so it could have wandered around. Probably somewhere in the temple. Normally, the golems, if you don't mess with them, they leave you alone. The only way they would be violent is if you try to take something from the vault.
Are these golems intelligence?
Oh no, they are mere constructs.
Let's just hope none of them think that we're just, robbers.
Also, there is one thing I would like to ask your delightful druidic friend. Is your arm supposed to be doing that? And he points to your right arm.
As of late, I would say.
Now that he's pointed it out, your arm feels itchy.
Yeah.
And you glance over and you see the little hardened lumps of sap now appear to be ever so slightly moving and shifting in your bark-like skin.
Oh, and I didn't even get wet. Yeah, I believe that's a new development. That maybe, I hope it's something good. So far, this stuff has been kind to me. So, we'll see.
You hear a little rustle as Timmy emerges from the moss on your shell and starts scarpering down. He examines each one, each little hard lump, and gives them little knocks. He gives them a listen. And then he slips his little twiggy fingers under the edges of one and just starts heaving at it.
Brothers of yours, I presume? Or sisters. I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous. Let's say siblings.
He heaves and heaves and heaves, and you hear a little tiny snap. Timmy just kind of stands up, holding his little back, and then motions to you and starts pulling at the thing again.
Well then.
Zabornik very hesitantly starts to help him.
Okay. You pull the first bit of sap away from your bark, and as you start to clear it up, it starts to crack and crumble away. And emerging from it, about the size of a matchstick, is another green sprite.
That's what I suspected. Well, welcome to the world. I'm your caretaker, and I suppose you're my caretaker, and together we'll be sure to take plenty of care.
The little sprite seems to sit for a moment, wiggle its little limbs, and then it just sprints up your arm and dives into the moss.
Welcome. You are welcome. I mean, you're welcome in several ways.
Timmy kind of looks up at you and gives you a kids shrug and moves to the next lump.
You guys busy yourselves. I guess this is gonna take a moment.
And she starts picking at wherever Timmy is going.
Okay. There are 5 in total. With each one, it's the same thing. Once you start to pull the sap away from your skin, it starts to crumble and releases the new twiggling. So you now have 5 small twiggling gardeners.
Oh, great! You have 5 twiglets, Timmy.
Yep. Timmy is pretty big. Despite the time that he was literally halved when you fell down the mountainside, he's pretty sizable. He is longer than your hand. The other ones, as I say, they're about the size of a matchstick. They don't seem to have the same level of intelligence as Timmy. So far, they just seem to be working on pure instinct. And Timmy kind of herds them towards the moss.
The 6-pack of
Good
sprites.
news, I have symbiotes.
Samara, if you're watching, you can see that the ones that are in the moss are currently scrolling around the moss, each checking little sprigs and leaves. A few of the browning leaves are being pruned and discarded. They appear to be essentially manicuring the lawn.
Well, I've already started work.
That is fascinating. I smell toast!
Yes, Terry. I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to
ironic.
you because things were a little confusing out here.
Rather ironic, really. 2 druids within the same room, one fountain of life and the other skilled in the arts of death.
Two sides of the same thing.
Two sides of the same coin.
You understand what they're talking about, Reister?
Barely.
However, you
Yeah,
would
I don't
have
know.
seen the
Life.
little twigglings.
Life,
Oh.
death.
Yeah.
No, I mean Haraga abstractly doesn't understand what this conversation is.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're talking about that they are both, that Zabornik and, Exethenter is, both
Tamara.
are...
Tamara-
yeah, sorry.
Tamara's-
That's
Yeah.
Bornig and Samara are both druids, but with
Haraga suddenly looks bored.
you asked me.
Elder is best at everything. I want to go.
Lich kind of sweeps around the room, his curiosity over this event sated. And eventually finds his way to Icy, starts looking her over. Well, you all seem rather skilled in the arcane arts.
Yes, I am.
Varaga, stop bouncing on his bed.
Haraga was moving around to try to get into standing next to Icy in a defensive posture. She still doesn't trust this guy.
Impressive level of power I can sense from you. No doubt born from your draconic bloodline, but I can see you've done a little bit of cultivating of that.
Well,
Perhaps a little dark
certain deals
influence
been
as
made.
Well, my dear, should you ever wish to join my ranks of arcane power, feel free to come and discuss with me. I believe you can grow much stronger.
Lich wings.
He seems kind of impressed with your power. He just leaves you with that offer and starts walking away. So then, is there anything else you would ask of me? Any other questions? I would say I haven't really had much of a decent conversation in quite some time. Those Neoloths down on the stairs are a bit hissy.
Oh yes, so you know what they are. They seem to be interested in the amber crystals.
Oh, yes. The remnants of corrupted wizards. They are arcanists who strove too far for power. They've been twisted and corrupted. They seem to worship the trapped entities as gods. Try to bring them new people who would be interested in sharing their power. I'm actually genuinely surprised they didn't steal anything from you. They are fascinated by magical objects.
I scared them away.
They seemed rather interested in me and trying to get me to touch those crystals.
Ah, well, touching them will do you no harm. All that does is create an opportunity for a conversation. For whichever entity resides, they tend to offer a gift in exchange for mild inconveniences. Well, depending on who you are and what you put value in. Mild could be subjective.
mild conveniences, giving him a pointed look.
Yes.
Master Xenopha, I have another question.
Yes.
How familiar are you with the Shadowlands of the Scorpion Coast?
I traveled there once, many years ago.
Then you know of the Sphere of Desolation, Charles prison.
Remind me in context, how long has that prison been there?
It has been there for a few thousand years.
I passed by it. This was back when I still had a heartbeat. I thought there would be some way to make a deal with the deity, perhaps get some extra power, but halfway through I realized that would be a terrible idea, and sought other ways to gain my power. And I found a rather effective way. He motions to himself.
Somehow she has been able to exert her influence into Barovia.
Was this in the walls of the temple, or was this outside?
Within the walls of the temple. She abducted one of our party.
The arena just punches the wall behind you. Someone important by the looks of it. Well,
Yes.
this place is a conduit of great evil. It was created to imprison those shards of dark deities. So, if any evil entity wanted to influence its power, this would be the strongest place.
Just out of curiosity, one were to try to get a quote-unquote good deity to get a foothold in this domain, where would that be?
Are you referring to Barovia at large?
Yes, Barovia at large, though it would be useful if we found a way to get someone good in here as well, just to even out the odds.
Well, there was one place. It was corrupted horribly, though, which actually forced back the goddess of nature. It seems right now it is slowly regaining its perch, though, and he looks over to Zabornik. That tree was the root of the goddess of nature. When that fell into corruption, her link was severed. The only other deity who has really any, I would say stronghold, probably, would be the Morning Lord. The Abbey would have been the strongest after that Saint Markovia took residence, but, well, after she died, they all went mad. There's a rather interesting fellow there now.
Yes, wanted to let me see the world from high above, I believe.
Yes, he made
Yes.
that threat to me once as well.
Yeah. But then he calmed down a bit
Well,
Well, turned him
after
into-
monkeying around.
this was
Well,
a threat
we-
brought to me by proxy.
Oh,
Strahd.
well, he was rather direct.
But if you are looking to bring other deities in, you would have to create their own stronghold, their own places of power that can be used as a central force for their faith. That is how deities work.
Huh.
We already have.
You also
But-
need your god not to be apathetic. The Morning Lord gave up on this place centuries ago.
Oh.
Of course he did.
Huh. Yeah.
Then
Deities can sometimes be very, very fickle, I believe.
Yes, sometimes.
Although the
Oh,
remaining
wow,
faith of
Zabornak.
those left allow
And
them to use whatever radiant magic they can. He has not directly interfered in this land, to my knowledge, for the better part of 3 centuries.
And what of death deities? Those who do not essentially have worshippers, but rather simply are.
Well, I believe you're referring to the Mistress of Death and the Passing of Souls. Her power
Yes, very.
is blocked here. As I'm sure you have probably known by now, there is no cycle of souls in this place. There is
Well, in a
only-
sense, there is.
Well, I speak crudely. There is no passing on. There is only a vortex. Any soul that enters the mists and gains access to Barovia is stuck here for eternity. Your souls, I'm afraid, will join that cycle.
We'll see about that.
You are not the first adventurer to look me in the face and say that, my dear.
Oh, I believe it.
Different.
Trust me.
I must say, your dog is very irritable.
As she said, she is hungry and she's very, very angry. After all, someone took our friend, not a friend of ours, our friend. And we're understandably angry.
As I can see, that one has been brooding in the corner since you came in. That really just shoots him like a glare.
Is this the way out to the next place?
That way will take you to the library. And from there, you
Oh.
could peruse the books and find anything you like. Just very quickly let me check. But not because I am smart.
SMRT. SMART.
I'm being very smart right now.
Below the library, you'll find a vault. There may be some trinkets still down there. I haven't explored outside of this room in some time, but I have heard a number of people moving around.
Can I go that way, Irina?
We should stick together.
It seems to be the best option if we're looking for these things.
Yeah, you can follow me. And then she moves to try to open the door.
The door's still open.
Oh, okay. So she heads through stomp, stomp, stomp. Then she pokes her head back in and says, I'm a civilized beast. Thank you, skeleton. And then she moves away.
What a delightfully savage creature.
Oh. You wouldn't like her when she's really angry, though.
I have dealt with harsher beasts. And, I assume you're taking that with you, and he points to the gem in your hand.
It would take the irritation out of eyes, wouldn't it?
Yes.
No offense to you, Terry.
I don't have fences anymore. I'm free.
One question, though. If one were to find a representation of someone's body who is inside one of these stones, you wouldn't have any idea how to put the soul back into a body that's previously encased in, say, amber.
That's not something I've encountered before. Actually, now that I have my senses around me again, he's going to lean in, and you see him lift his hand up as he starts casting a spell, and his eyes flash, Yes, well, it seems to be a soul separation. Essentially, it appears that a demon ripped his soul from his body and sealed it within this gem so it could possess his physical form.
Yeah, that's kind of the gist that I got from him as well. He is not necessarily the brightest candle in the candlestick.
Yes, I must say that is
Yeah.
a very dim fellow. I'd hate to see what he was raised with.
I mean, come on, he's a goat. He's pretty smart for a goat.
For a goat, yes.
A
Yes.
goat, as in horns, fur,
Goat.
and bah.
Horns, fur, and now talks. He's
Yeah,
kind of
we're-
ascended.
We're kind of invested in this one. It's a long story.
Yeah.
Very, very well. Well, I've seen this before. If you want to return him to his goatness, what you'll need to do is you'll need to find the demon that possessed his physical essence, kill it, banish it from the plane, and then return the soul to the body by simply drawing it near. With the demon away, the body will be hollow and looking for its other part. So if we bring the soul to the body,
So I would go.
the hard
so
part, I'm
if-
afraid, will be
uh,
hunting down the demon.
Question.
Yes?
If we found, say, a hollowed person who hadn't had a soul at all, would we be able to place a soul in that?
Well, the soul itself will want to return to its own body. You won't be able to put it into another without some sort of, well, an equivalent of the soul-tearing magic. It would be more difficult to place it in a separate entity, but if you bring it to its own body, it should just, he clicks his fingers.
Right, it's just I think we may have a problem on that front.
Oh?
Well, unless...
The body is no longer available as something with pulse.
Oh! I see. Is it beginning to rot?
It's kind of cold up here, isn't it?
Well, didn't it like turn to goop?
Yeah.
The demon did.
Well,
However, Terry's body is downstairs.
Oh,
See,
I didn't
Well,
understand what was going on there. Sorry.
well,
Same.
let's say a demon took the idea of its form and encased it in, say, amber. How would we be able to break the body free so that the soul can move it around?
Well, the amber seems to be an after effect of the soul extraction. Essentially, the demon cannot maintain a physical presence on this plane if the body is destroyed. So the demon would have went to great lengths to preserve the body. And
And if that is the body, what was the demon using then?
the physical essence.
So, ow.
Essentially, it was feeding upon the tether that links the soul and the body. By drawing the soul out and interrupting the tether between them, it was able to feed off that energy and manifest its own physical form.
Physicality broth. Okay.
You know what? That's actually a pretty good description. Think of it like a chain linking the soul and the body. The demon just basically hung off the chain.
So it is not like the messenger who carries a letter from me to Zabornek usually, and that messenger now is the demon. And okay, I think I do understand. He definitely doesn't.
Picture it. You know what an aqueduct is, yes?
What do you take me for, an idiot?
well, I'm trying to think of a layman way to describe this. Say the soul is a stream up a river. It is going along an aqueduct to a town, which is the body. What the demon essentially did is it broke the aqueduct halfway down and used it to power a mill. The water no longer goes to the body, but it keeps trying to, and instead gives energy to the mill.
Now you're speaking my language, good sir.
Well, if you cannot explain something to a layman, then you cannot call yourself an expert on the subject.
You really made him see the Miller Lite.
Oh wow! Psychic damage.
Yeah, to the lich. Because that's a cringe-worthy joke. Well then, given that we have everything we need to rejoin body and soul, I'm fairly certain we can make sure that he's out of your hair. Pardon the phrase, but
You glance at the skeleton, and it does seem to have some wisps of hair still attached to the dried skin attached to the skull.
yes, we will. It will be fairly clear that he will be no further issue to you.
Yes, well. Now that I know that it's a goat, I feel very strange about some of the conversations I had with it. Did it really attack a werewolf den?
Yes.
With us. So
We might, in his story, we might have helped.
Perhaps. We did talk
A
of
warlock's
nice
a warlock.
wolves. Nice
Pardon?
wolves and the formerly bad man.
That
Yes.
would be me.
Yes, we had an. You ever heard of Baba Yaga?
No.
Well, she
Oh, wait,
was.
is that insufferable nursemaid?
I don't know if she
Yeah.
was a nursemaid, but yeah, she was at least a witch and also a pain in the butt.
Anyway,
Lift it.
So, anyway, I think that will be a good point for you to move on, and that will be a good point to end the session before you move further into the library.
Yeah.
So, the Lich has been rather cordial to you. Seems open to having further conversations in the future, and has invited you to stay and visit when you like. He has given you the passcodes to the sealed doors and to the library. He also will warn you not to take any of the books out of the library.
Yeah, I mean, that's usual unless somewhere's a desk.
He also mentions that if you destroy or damage any of the books, he will be upset. So, I will have to dart off in a moment because I need to pick up two drunk people from a wedding. So, play the game.
Shaw.
I'm actually
Yeah.
going to give it to all yous for not diving in and killing the Neothics.
Yes, thank you.
Because that would have been a very hard fight for you guys.
Yeah, Haraga had a bad feeling about it.
Yeah, I mean, Reister was careful.
Fail of the game.
Yeah.
Ez.
and as
That was something that me and Ez planned to essentially remove her from the campaign. Maybe temporarily, maybe not. We'll have to see.
Hopefully.
I would also like to throw a lane in for deciding to mention the fact that if Ez is ever lands, she can be surrounded by vampires.
Well,
Nice ones, but still.
we'll discuss
Yeah,
that.
let's leave
Yeah,
that
that being
out.
the follow-up campaign.
Questions, theories, comments?
Irina!
Yeah.
We still don't know if Irina made a deal or not.
Yeah, we don't know if she did, yeah.
Well, Irina has just been moving between extreme grief and loss and extreme anger. Elaine, I would say through Kiri, you would realize this.
Yeah, that is mainly why he's been so quiet. Except when he's needed to ask questions.
And, Terry,
Hello.
I have been sitting on that for ages.
So nice
I
to
was
son of
so
a bull.
sad. I was so sad that I thought we killed him. I'm really glad to have him back, and then I'm like, oh no, Terry's back.
Hello. Well, right now he's only here.
I have to say, I'm with Samara on this, putting him in another body.
I'm with the idea of putting his jewel inside of a warforged and then Mega Terry.
I
Steph,
mean,
you know that we would need someone like Ez to perform the type of ritual.
Do you know where an inanimate golem is?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, yes.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, that's what I was saying.
Anyway, I gotta go, so I'm gonna do a quick run down the list.
care.
It's gonna be a good night from me. It's gonna be a good night from the new mother creature.
Say good night, boys.
Alright.
For context, they are pretty much mindless for now. Timmy is the only one who is sentient, but
True.
a good
Oh, the
night
baby's
from
mindless.
a good night from the bestest puppy, Haraga.
And remember, Haraga's getting hungry.
A good night from the holder of the goat soul, Reister.
Good night. Good night.
A good night from the sorcerer who impressed a lich, Icewind.
Good night.
And lastly, a good night from the dark and brooding vampire and the dark and brooding paladin.
World's worst boyfriend, people.
Alright. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.